we have so much in front of us, and sometimes these bad days come from feeling stagnant, feeling like we don't have enough, or feeling like we aren't good enough. And I think those are normal feelings, and I don't think it's okay to just brush it aside. What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Morning Takeaway Podcast, aka the Inside Influence Podcast. Welcome back to episode, I want to say this is episode number 92. 92 weeks of me yelling at you. Not really yelling, but just having a conversation, sitting here with my takeaways. The podcast originally started from just my mental takeaways from my runs, from the endorphins, from the way my brain works in a pretty deep way, I guess you could say. I have a whole list of different things that come to my mind. I call them lightning bolts. You can reference a podcast from my takeaways from 2023 a couple weeks ago. And basically, I just come on here and expand on them. So that said, we're approaching 100 episodes where we will integrate, and I guess better word for that would be transfer over to the Inside Influence Podcast fully. I'll have a new logo. I will have guests on the podcast. There will still be solo episodes, yada, yada, yada. But before we get there, we've got a few more episodes to go where it's just you and I. And again, like I said, it will still be you and I on some solo episodes on the Inside Influence Podcast. But today, I want to talk to you about something I feel is very important to share with you, considering the job I have is all over social media, putting my life out there in a very vulnerable way, and I'm okay with that. It's something that I accept by doing that by choice every single day with the mission to and passion behind hopefully inspiring one person, literally just one person every single day, to potentially have some kind of impact on them, whether it's humor, mental health, physical health, whatever. Again, if somebody was able to get on a camera and a microphone and change my life, I hope that I could do the same for somebody else and not even change their life, but potentially just have an impact, right? So as I sit here, by the way, this is totally off topic. I'm just realizing how hilarious it is that it's January 30th and I'm in a tank top as if it was the middle of July back in Hawaii. But without getting too crazy away from what I want to talk to you about today, today is the day after I put a story on my Instagram where I basically just got on there and told you I was in the worst mood of my life. I, was having one of those days, and I felt it was super important to share with you, and that's where I was kind of going at the beginning, I guess about a minute ago, 30 seconds ago, with what I choose to do on social media. In a world that is filled with a lot of fake and a lot of things to mask or push down our emotions and sweep them aside and really just let our emotions keep building up within us and putting on some kind of face for the rest of the world to see, I think it's only fair that I share that kind of thought with you. And I think it's only fair to somewhat normalize the idea that we all have bad days. I don't think it's fair to get on Instagram, to get on Snapchat, social media. And if you follow me on Snapchat, I kind of expanded on that. Snapchat's the platform that I kind of go a little bit more behind the scenes. It's a little less, I guess, I don't know. It's just more raw in a way. But you see me on Instagram, on the short form content, on the long form content, and I'm a pretty positive person. I pride myself on being positive. And even when there is days that we have bad days, that there's some way that we can turn it into a positive, right? And I don't want it to come across like I don't have bad days, because I do think it's important to have the bad days. But I also think it's important to direct 80% of our attention, because we're going to have that 20%, hopefully not 20%. Let's be honest. Let's hope that it's like 5% of our life that is, a bad day. And it's okay to have those, right? And that's the point of this podcast, is I expand and kind of give you some ways that I try to cope with those bad days, or maybe try to change that around. But without deviating too far from what I'm trying to, give you today, I do think it's important to sometimes fake it. as if you're happy, right? I think there's a thing in our brain that if we can brainwash ourselves in a way to always be positive, then our brain is going to start to rewire and fire in different ways to ultimately be positive, right? And see a different perspective. Now, I'm not telling you to only brainwash yourself and be fake, right? But I'm telling you that I do believe there is something to that. And where I'm leading with this is something that I did yesterday when I was having just a horrendous day. And I'll expand on that. But it was kind of it was a fake smile. And I'll expand on that again. But basically, my story on Instagram went a little something like this. I basically asked, do you ever have those days where you're just in the absolute worst mood of your entire life? No rhyme or reason. It just feels like, well, maybe there was. For me, I was kind of feeling a little stagnant. I was feeling like maybe some of the things that I'm doing right now aren't adding up to exactly where I want to go. I feel just kind of stuck right now in the geographical location that I'm in California. And I know that I want to move to Nashville, and just nothing is kind of adding up to get me there. And I have, the Inside Influence podcast. I have the Don't Forget to Smile brand. I have all these things that I want to start just like putting my heart and soul into once I'm in Nashville. And I can do those things here, but something in me is just like, I know that my roots are going to be planted once I'm there and I'm in a spot. Now, that said, with all excuses aside, I could 100% act on these. But that's not the point of today's podcast. Today's podcast is to let you know that, yes, I was feeling stagnant. I was feeling, anything that was happening was just, it wasn't rubbing me the right way. And I wasn't my normal self. I was short with people. I was... I didn't take anger out on anybody, but I just felt just gray. And I think it's important to let you know that because it's real. We all go through those days. I put a Instagram out the other day with something along the lines of, we all have cracks on this metaphorical wall of life. We're all going to have cracks in that wall. But the more that we try to spackle those cracks and ultimately try to cover those cracks up and mask those emotions on our life, well, the less we're going to let the light shine in. And the more that we accept that we all have cracks and we're all going to have cracks, well, the more we can let the light shine in. And when that light, we start to feel that light, it feels a little brighter. And there's days like today, which is literally the day after I had that bad day, where the bright times and this day just is way better. It makes it brighter, and there's something to that, right? Now, as I was going through the day, and I'll give you kind of some of the things that I was trying to do to get myself out of this mental state. Now, the first thing that came to mind was, hey, smile. I always say don't forget to smile. And where that kind of originated was this exercise that I read about in a research study that essentially, when you smile, those muscles in your face trigger happy hormones, and it literally works. Try this exercise. This is exactly what I did yesterday. Just stare off into space. I was in my car at a red light, smiled at nothing for 30 seconds. I remember feeling everybody looking at me, but nobody was looking at me. Nobody cares. And I began to feel those happy hormones. You can feel the world around you, feel a little bit less stressful. So that was the first thing I did, and of course that lasted for all of 30 seconds, and I kind of went back and forth, and there was no getting me out of it, right? It felt that way at least. But the next thing I went to was gratitude. Okay, I'm grateful the sun is shining today. It's beautiful. It was 72 degrees outside yesterday in January. I am grateful for, all these different things that I could name off, and literally just the art of practicing gratitude can help you get out of these dark times, these bad days, because literally the highest vibration is joy and love, which comes from gratitude as well. Just, I'm thankful for life, right? Whatever it is, I practice it every day. I write as many things out as I can, morning and night, even if it's my digestive system, like literally anything that you can think of. But that was the next thing I did. And the rest of the day, I was just, it still wasn't great, but it got better. And I'm not going to say that those things are what made it better, but it definitely helped. And I got to reflecting on the day as I journaled last night, and just the thought that kept coming to my mind was all you have is all you need. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think there's a lot of truth in the idea that we have so much in front of us, and sometimes these bad days come from feeling stagnant and feeling like we don't have enough or feeling like we aren't good enough. And I think those are normal feelings, and I don't think it's okay to just brush it aside. I think it's important and real to let you know, from my point of view, where it is a very positive vibe and a positive energy that I definitely want to put out, but I'm not going to keep that away from you. I'm going to tell you on social media. I'm going to tell you on this podcast, right? I want to make sure that is not lost, because there's a lot of people that won't do that. And you're just sitting there questioning. I get questions all the time like, hey, are you ever mad at life? Are you ever negative? And I'm like, yeah, if you follow me long enough, you'll probably see one of those stories or one of those videos. And I think it's again, that's the message I'm trying to drive home today. But as I reflected, I just started to think, in those times that we feel like we don't have enough, or in those times that we don't feel like we are enough, you sit back and you realize we all have $1,500 phones in our hands. We all probably have a car to drive. We all are probably going to sleep with a roof over our head. We all have clean water to drink. We have all these things that we take for granted. And ultimately, it's all we really need. Now, I'm sure, that's a whole nother podcast that I could dive into some of the sentences I just went through. But the perspective of that idea of just coming to grips with what we do have and being grateful for it is essentially where I've tried to lead my life today in what is a way better day than yesterday. And my intention this morning, when I sat down to journal, going through my normal morning routine at 4:30 a.m., my intention today was to lead with love and gratitude. And it has just been more prominent all day long. Little things become a little brighter. The run feels a little better. The workouts feel even better. The food tastes a little better. And call it what you want, but there is something to that idea of living and leading your life with gratitude. Now, that is how I deal with some of these bad days. And like another piece, and I put this on my story, is to change your state. So yesterday, another thing I did was just go get some sunlight, go on a run, move your body, change your physiological state. A lot of times we feel these depressive or anxious feelings, and we again push them down and we mask them, and we go sit on the couch and we get our favorite comfort food and we go to town. I'm a culprit of that just as much. I will stress eat like nobody's business. But ultimately, one of the best ways, and Tony Robbins is one of the probably the most famous motivational speaker of our time. He will tell you that to change your state. And when I'm in sunlight is actually, vitamin D is one of the happy. It's literally, they say if you're feeling sad, get sunlight. And to expand on that, another thing I do is change my state with a cold shower or a cold plunge or sweating, moving your body through space. There's so many different ways to change that state or stimulate yourself with a motivational video, or even if you don't want to hear it. I know I've been in moods where I'm just like, I don't want to hear that positive crap, right? And that's real. It's like, it almost makes it feel like it's getting worse. But again, I think it's normal, and that is something else that I did. I went on a run, got a good sweat in. I went for just 60 minutes and as slow as I possibly could, just to absorb the world around me, and it did help. So that said, I've been leading with gratitude today, and I think I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I'm grateful for you today. This is how I'm leading my life today, and through gratitude. And I go through. I have these waves of gratitude. I'm sitting here and nobody's around me, but I'm sitting here just talking to a microphone, and there'll be about 1,000 of you that listen to this, maybe more, maybe less. And if one person is able to take something away, then I'm fulfilled. And I'm grateful for that feeling. I'm grateful for the comments that you all leave. I'm grateful for the direct messages that I get, and I may not ever meet some of you, but again, some of my goals this year are to be more tangible in the next year or so as well, and events and whatnot. But that said, I may not meet some of the people that say I'm changing their life, and that is no amount of money can pay me for that, a message like that. And I get the chills thinking about it. I get, it's something that I'm probably the most grateful for in life. And I think, again, it's important to tell you that outright. So again, this is just the beginning of what's to come. I look back on the past 2.5 years and look back through the bad days, through the good days, through all the content I've put out across platforms, hundreds, probably thousands of pieces of content. And it still feels fresh, and it still feels new, and it still feels like there's so much more to accomplish. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you that tune into my stuff to see this, to hear it, to listen to me, and to watch and keep up with what's going on in my life. And again, I want to take that interest in and hear about your life as well, and especially when I start to get into these events and in-person meetings and whatnot. So that said, I kind of ended this podcast a little different than I intended to, but that's okay. I enjoy expressing the gratitude. So let's end this thing with a random question generator right here. Click for a question. What's the best thing you got from one of your parents? Ooh, what's the best thing I got from one of my parents? I keep coming to two things. One was a bike that I got for Christmas when I was probably in 5th grade. That was pretty materialistic, but actually the first thing that came to my mind was hearing my dad tell me he was proud of me for what felt like the first time that I ever heard those words when I graduated high school. That was probably, that's pretty deep, I'm sure it was probably more, but it just felt like it meant more at that point, and it felt real. And I remember that feeling vividly, and just like, wait, wow, this is real. He is proud. So different podcast for a different time. One day, I've told you before, I'll come out with my life story, and we'll see where that goes. There's a lot more I have to give to the world that will take that adventure one day. But that is all I have for you on this glorious day. Hope you took something for what it's worth. Hopefully it had some kind of impact on you. If you think that somebody else might have take to what I'm saying, I would appreciate it. The best way you can repay me is by sharing this and hopefully maybe impacting somebody else. You never know what the compound, the domino effect does. So again, I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. I will see you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to the first one to see my videos on the tube of the you with me. I'll see you next time. Have an awesome freaking day, and don't forget to smile.